Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to another video. In today's video, let's talk about how to control these emotions of anger. Well, anger itself is a natural human emotion. We all feel angry. But if we do not know how to control this emotion, if we do not know how to deal with anger, sometimes it can be destructive. And if we let that anger to control over our life, we will get into lots of troubles. So, today I'm going to introduce you a little practice that you can practice in your practical life to deal with this emotion. Well, first of all, I have to remember none of these practices are easy. In fact, nothing in life that brings us the happiness, that brings the peacefulness to your life is not an easy task. It is a difficult one. Though it is difficult, we cannot abandon it because we like to be happy and we like to be peaceful in our life. So that is why Buddha said that everything that brings the happiness to your life is a difficult task. So what are the things that we can do to deal with these emotions of anger? Well, the first and the foremost thing that you can do to deal with these emotions is to acknowledge that your thoughts are in anger. If you don't know your thoughts are in anger, you cannot deal with it. So this includes the mindfulness, right? Whenever you are about to get angry, whenever you feel that you are triggered by this anger, just ask this question, what am I thinking now? In which mode my thoughts are in now, right? Whenever you ask that question and whenever you answer it, you can find, oh, I'm about to get angry now. Now my thoughts are in anger. That is the first step, to know that you are angry. Then it comes to the second step, right? So in this second step, if you look at this, if I ask a question from you, whenever you feel angry, imagine a situation that you have felt angry about something or someone, right? How your breathing pattern works. How our breathing pattern changes when we feel angry. It speeds up and we take short breaths, right? So that gives the sign to our body, that gives the message to our body that now you're ready for getting angry. You're breathing heavily, we are breathing in short periods, and we are breathing speedily. So the first thing that you can do is to slow down your breathing pattern. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Take another deep breath in and let it out. Slowing down the breathing pattern will help you to calm your body and calm your mind, right? Whenever we feel calm and when we are about to take a rest, what is the thing that we do? For an example, after a long day of work, when you come home and after having a good shower, if you fell on the couch, right? If you fell on the bed, what is the first thing that you do? You take a deep breath in and let it out. That is the thing that you do. That means you are giving the signal to your body that you are about to get calm or to have a rest. So the thing that we have to do, whenever we feel angry, whenever we feel we panicked, just give the message to your body that be calm by taking 2 to 3 deep breaths in and out, right? So breathing can help you a lot. Then as the third step, now you're a little bit peaceful and calming. Now you can wisely reflect on your thought pattern. When you reflect about your thoughts, you can find, why did I become angry with this person? What is that? Then you can find that anger does not prevail in the outer world, in that person or that thing, specific thing. Anger prevails in my mind, right? It is something that I have created. Whenever you come to a situation that you are triggered to be angry, you come up with these two choices, either to react with negativity or to respond with positivity. That is up to you, right? And your experiences and your good and bad experiences depends on these choices that you make. So you totally have the power and you totally have the privilege to respond with positivity, right? So you have to believe in patience for that. Remember, there is nothing in this world, there is no problem in this world that has been solved with anger. That is why Buddha said, anger does not cease by anger, or hatred does not cease by hatred. Hatred is seized by love and kindness only. So you have to believe in patience and compassion and forgiveness. That is the way that you're going to solve the problem, right? Though you react in anger, though you yell out or scream or take actions with anger, that is not going to help. That is not going to solve the problem. It will make the problem even more worse. I have seen lots of people who could not control their anger for a split second. Just because they could not control their anger for a split second, now they are regretting for their whole life. So remember, anger is not going to help you. So when you believe in patience and kindness and compassion, you will have this strength to face that situation more positively. Remember what Buddha said. The Buddha said, before you do something from your body, from your speech, or from your mind, just wisely reflect that what I'm going to do, is this worthy of doing? Is it bringing happiness to myself, or is it bringing happiness to others? Is it going to hurt others, or is it going to hurt myself? If it is hurting you and if it is hurting to other self, do not try to do it. Remember, it is okay that we feel angry sometimes in our mind, but it is not okay to let that anger to flow out from our bodily actions and our words, right? So remember, this is how we can control it. Always believe in patience and kindness. That is where you're gonna solve the problems. So this is a little practice where we can deal with these emotions of anger. So practice these practices little by little and make your life a peaceful one. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya. We all know that letting go of the anger, letting go of the resentment is not as easy as we think, right? People might say to us, let it go, forget about it, don't think about it, and what had happened, happened. But the person who is in that situation, person who is really dealing with that person or that problem, only knows how difficult it is and how painful it is to experience that. But here's the thing, if we need to be at peace, if we need to make peace with ourselves, we need to learn a way of thinking and way of dealing with these kind of people and these kind of situations. And that is why I need to introduce you to a way of thinking that Buddha taught us to do, to deal with such people and to deal with such situations, right? The reason why I needed to make this video is that the other day I was reading this sutra and I came across this one part of this sutra, which is I find really inspiring and really valuable advice from the Buddha. So first of all, let's take a look at what Buddha has to say about this. The Buddha says, one may apply to that person the fact of ownership of karma. Let's name this way of thinking as the ownership of karma. The Buddha says, this worthy person is the owner of his actions, the heir to his actions. His actions are the womb from which he has sprung, his relations and his protection. Whatever he does, good or bad, he will be heir to that. To remove the grudge or remove the resentment of someone, the Buddha advises us to look at their karma. Now, what do you mean by karma? Karma is the action, karma is the intentional actions that we do from our body, from our speech, and from our mind, right? Now, with these intentions, we create sort of consequences. The other part of the karma is called consequences of karma, which we call in Pali vipaka, right? So with this karma, there's one part called the vipaka. That means the consequences of karma, right? So the Buddha says, whatever the karma you do with intentions, whatever the intentional actions that you do, it generates its own consequences, right? So the Buddha says that if someone does actions with his body, speech, and his mind with an impure intention or impure mind, the suffering follows that person like a cartwheel follows the ox, right? So in that case, let's say if someone is hurting you, right? If someone is hurting you and hurting your emotions, so that person is doing that intentionally, right? With that intention, he generates karma. Now, if you consider about that intention, you can clearly say that intention is not pure. It is an impure intention. So with impure intention, what generates? Impure karma. And when one generates impure karma, the suffering follows that person. So when you look at someone who is hurting you, you can think, okay, whatever they do, right now they're doing an unwholesome action, so they're going to go through the consequences of that action. And whatever I do, right, how I react to that situation, how I react to their expressions and their way of behaviors is my karma. Now, do I need to get intervened with their unwholesome actions? Do I need to collect such unwholesome actions to my life, such unwholesome karma to my life? Then you can tell to yourself, I clearly don't want that to happen to myself because I care for myself and I love myself. When you think about that, it's a great way of thinking about such people, right? So whenever you come across with a difficult customer, a rude customer, what do you have to do? Okay, you have to think, whatever the karma that they are going to collect is their own karma. And how I respond to that karma is my karma. So I choose to respond to this situation with kindness, compassion, and patience, and maturity. Most importantly, maturity is really crucial when you are dealing with such people. Okay, I always say to people that when someone is angry with you, when someone is yelling at you, be the bigger person. That means be someone who is bigger than that person's qualities, right? Be someone who has bigger patience than that person. So when you face such situations with patience and maturity, you can deal with such people in the correct way, and also you can let go of that anger and resentment with time, right? I know most of the time you will not be able to do this as quick as you want, right? Although you may need to let go of the anger quickly, it won't happen. But it's okay. Take a good time to let go of the anger by thinking like this, right? So let's say you are going through a difficult situation and someone is angry with you and you are angry with them, right? You hold on to this grudge and resentment in your mind. Then what happens to you? The more you hold on to it, who is the person who is going to get hurt? You're the person who is going to get hurt, right? Because there's a nice saying that says, it's a Buddhist saying that says that if you're angry with someone, right, if you're holding and you're hating someone, it's like holding a hot coal, right, or red hot iron ball in your hand, and you're trying to throw it at another person to hurt that person. If you take a red hot iron ball to throw it to a person, who is the first person is getting hurt? You're the one who is getting hurt first, right? So in the same way, if you hold on to the anger, if you hold on to the resentment about someone, the first person who is going to get hurt is you. So when you understand this, and when you understand that self-care, self-love, self-compassion is important to heal, then you can let go of that anger. So this is the way to think about the person. Think in the perspective of karma, right? Whatever they do, it is their karma, and how I respond to that is my karma. So I choose to collect. I choose to collect a good karma to my life by responding to that situation with patience and maturity. So I hope this idea will help you to deal with such people in the correct way. And I wish you all, may you be healthy and may you be happy. Namo Buddhaya. Why do bad things happen to good people? Sometimes you've asked this question from yourself. I'm a good person. I help everyone. I don't hurt anyone. I can see myself as a good person. But still, why all these bad things? Why all these painful things, sufferings happen to my life? Why life always keep testing me always? Well, these questions we've asked most of the times in our life, right? Do you know how Buddha saw this? In the night of his enlightenment, the first thing that he realized was that life consists of suffering. Suffering is a part of everyone's life, right? So Buddha did not say suffering as a part of good people's life or a bad people's life. Buddha saw that suffering was universal, right? But when we face adversities in life, when we face these realities like painful situations in our life, we think that the only person who is going through this suffering, the only person that is going through this difficulty is only me. That is how everyone feels. Not to lie, sometimes I feel that. But what Buddha teaches us to see it as is to see the suffering as a universal thing. I'll tell you a story. A young mother lost her baby, but she loved her baby so much that she refused to accept her baby's death. What she did? She took her baby and ran from one village to another, one village to another, one city to another, finding a doctor to cure her baby. But no one could bring a dead person back to life. Finally, she met the Buddha. The Buddha said, "Okay, I will cure your baby. But we need one medicine to do this. Can you bring it? Go and bring a handful of mustard from a family that no one has ever died." So the mother was so much happy. She thought that she could find this easily. So she ran to the village and went to the first house that she found and asked, "Do you have a handful of mustard that I can get?" Then when the householder was about to give the handful of mustard, she said, "Has anyone died in your family?" Then they said, "Oh, my uncle died last year." Then she said, "I don't want your mustard." She went to the next house and she got the same answer. Someone had died. She went to the other one. She went from one house to another and she went through the whole village. The only word that she heard was, "Someone died." Death. Then she understood, okay, death is not only for me. Death was something that I always heard in this journey. Maybe my child is dead. So she made her heart strong enough to accept her baby's death. She went back to the monastery to meet the Buddha and thanked the Buddha for curing not the baby, but her heart. What Buddha teaches us to see about life is that to see the suffering as universal. So next time when you go through a difficulty in your life, and the next time when you go through a hardship, painful feeling in life, understand that you are not all alone. There are so many people who is going through in life that's in the same situation, the suffering. Okay? Most of the time, we try to remove the suffering from life. We always wish that this suffering was not there in our life, right? We go to sleep thinking that next day morning when we wake up, all these things will be a dream. All these problems will disappear. But the reality is, when there is suffering in life, there is suffering. So that the first thing that we need to do is that accept that there is suffering in life. So the whole point of realizing the first noble truth in Buddhism is to accept the suffering as it is, to see the suffering as it is. Only when you accept the suffering, we can cure it. We can find a remedy for it. First of all, you need to accept that there is pain and suffering in all of our lives, right? And then we can choose what to do with it. Most of the time, we spend a lot of time worrying about changing what we can't change, right? But it all depends on how you choose to react to these experiences in life. Most of the time, these painful feelings, sufferings that comes to our life are blessings in disguise, right? If we did not get difficult situations, if we did not get hardships to our life, right, challenges in our life, how can we develop a strong mindset, right? There's a saying that if you need to learn how to swim, what do you have to do? You have to jump to the pool. Somehow, you have to experience how drowning feels like. Only then you can realize that what should I do to learn how to swim, right? In the same way, there is no use of trying to avoid wishing and praying that suffering was not there in life, right? There's no point of wishing and praying that, please don't give me suffering. Always wish a mindset that you can face strongly to all these sufferings and painful situations in life. Whenever you get a strong mind to face any kind of challenge in your life, then you can be happy and in peace, because you're ready for anything in your life, right? So always wish a strong mindset that you can face any challenge, any difficult situation in life. So remember that not only bad things happen to good people, good things also happen to good people. And also, sometimes you may think, why all those good things happen to bad people, right? It is not always the case. Good things happen to bad people, and also bad thing happens to good people. That is the law of this world. So we all need to develop the mindset to see the suffering as a common truth to everyone, not a personal thing. So I wish you all, may all of you be able to develop a strong mindset to face any challenge in all of your life. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya. First of all, remember the nature of our life. What is the nature of our life? Life is a little bit unfair. That is the real nature. But the problem is, we expect that everything in our life to be perfect and to be fair. That is the problem. That is where the real problem is. Because Buddha said, if you have expectations, if you have more and more expectations inside yourself, chances are very high for you to feel so stressed. So remember that expectations stands for suffering. If you expect the life to be fair, you will suffer, right? So the nature of our life is, it is a little bit unfair. So how to face such situations, how to face unfair situations in our life? Well, I want you to do 3 things when you face tough situations in your life, right? These are very simple, but yet when you practice it, it is very hard to do that, but you can achieve it. Number 1, first of all, you need to realize what the situation is. That is the first thing that you have to do. If you're going through a hard time, right, you need to analyze about that and see what the problem is. Well, there are 2 types of situations in our life. What is that? First type of situation is the situations which are in our control, experiences which can be changed by ourselves, right? And the second type of situation is the situations which are out of our control. We cannot do many things about that situation, right? So these are the 2 types of situations that we go through in our life. So first of all, you need to analyze and you need to see what the problem is, whether it is in my control or out of my control. Right? When you realize about the situation, then you can do something about that situation. Okay? That is the first thing you have to do. Analyze the situation. Number 2, if it is a situation that is in your control, just do something to change that situation. So what are the things that are in our control? What are the situations and experiences that we face in our life and which are in our control? Well, if you face a bad time, if you face a stressful situation because of your own faults, because of a mistake that is within yourself, then you can change it. Because we own our mistakes. We are the owners of our mistakes, and the mistakes can only be changed by ourselves. No one can change that. Someone can advise you, someone can show you the path, but no one can make it correct than you. So what you have to do, you have to change the situation. If it is your mistake, correct it. If it is your fault, then do something about it to change that situation. So these are the things that that are out of our that are in our control. Remember. Here's the third one. When we face the situations that are out of our control, how to face that situation? Well, these are the situations we spend most of our time trying to change that, but we cannot do anything about that situation. So what are the situations which are out of our control? There are many things, right? Criticism is out of your control. People's opinions, they're out of our control. How people behave in front of you is totally out of your control. They are their choices, not your own choice. But we try to change these situations and we become so sad and depressed trying to change, and we find that we cannot change this situation. So if you cannot change the situation, what you have to do, you have to change your perspective about the situation, right? You can change the perspective about the situation, because the perspective, the perspective and the way you see that about that situation is totally in your control, because your thoughts are in your control, right? So what you need to do is, if you cannot change the situation, change the perspective, change the way you see about that situation. Okay? So remember, when people act weird in front of you, when people try to make you angry, when people criticize you, right? When people give unwanted opinions about you, just think, these things are out of my control. I should not waste my time of my life to change these situations. It is much better to change my perspective about this situation. So how can you change the situation? How can you change the perspective? You can be kind to them, right? You can maintain a positive mindset inside you, right? It is much better to maintain a positive mindset daily, every day, right? Listen to some things like positive things, positive words every day. It is much better to do that, because the more you listen to the positive words, positive ideas, right? Then the more you become positive inside, right? Then you can change your perspective about the situation. That is what you can do. Always remember what Buddha said. It is a nice quote that Buddha said that describes about the life. Buddha said, most of the times, unexpected things happen. Isn't that true? We don't know what will happen in the next time, right? It is a mystery. So in life, always unexpected things happen. And the things that we expected will going to be destroyed, right? If we expect something, we don't get the same thing. That is the thing. If you expect the life to be fair, chances are more that for you to suffer in your life. So live with less expectations, right? If you are going through a tough situation, just analyze the situation, realize about the situation, and if you can change the situation, do something about it. If you cannot do it, something about the situation, change your perspective. That is what you can do when the life is not going in your way. So make your life a peaceful one with the teachings. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to yet another Q&A video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the fear of failure and how to deal with it. Did you know that the majority of the people who fail in their life challenges fail because of this fear of failure? So we're going to find a solution and how to deal with it. First of all, we have to realize that failure is a part of life, right? It is with the life. It comes with the life. And fearing the failure, this fear that arises inside our mind, it's an emotion. So these are two different things. Let's talk about the failure. Failure, you cannot avoid it. It's a worldly condition. Our great teacher, Supreme Buddha, said there are 8 worldly conditions in this world. From time to time, you have to go through these 8 worldly conditions. So what are these 8 worldly conditions? Buddha explained: pleasure, pain, blame, praise, disrepute, fame, gain, loss. These things are the 8 worldly conditions, right? So these things change time to time. From time to time, these things comes to our life, and we have to go through these things. So you cannot avoid the failure. Sometimes you get what you want. Sometimes you don't get what you want. So you have to find a way to deal with it. One thing that you have to realize is, when you fear the failure more and more, there will be more chances for you to fail. That is a law in this nature. That is a law of our mind, right? The more you fear, the more you fail. Keep that in your mind, right? So that means when you fear too much, you're running out of your plans. You're not thinking about your plans, and you're just sticking to that emotion of fear, and you're not going to take the risks, and you're not going to take that next step. So fearing the failure, this fear is the thing that holds you back from the success. Realize it. So what we can do with this fear when it comes to our mind? Of course, we can use our fear to our success. How? So if you are afraid of failure, then you can be well prepared, right? Then you have to think, oh, I'm afraid of failing, so I must come up with a plan, and I must work my plan. So in that way, you can use this emotion to your own success. And there's another thing. You have to learn how to keep your expectations moderate. Not too high, not too low, but in the middle way, in the moderate state. How do we keep it? Do not think of yourself that I'm going to be the perfect in this world. I'm going to be the best in this world. Of course you can be the best, but not for a long time. It is also impermanent. And also, don't think about yourself like, I'm not good enough, I cannot do it, I'm not going to make it. Don't think about yourself negatively. Instead, keep your expectations moderate. How? I will do my best. If you are facing an exam, all right, if you are fearing about it, you have to think, I will do my best, right? I'm not going to be the best, but I can do my best. I can become the best version of myself, right? That is why I'm trying for this. You have to think about that again and again. When you think about that, you're trying to give the best of yourself. You're trying to come up with a better plan, and you're trying to work that plan. When you keep your expectations too high, you have to set and make some unrealistic plans, right, which are not going to work. When you keep your expectations very low, you're not going to come up with a plan actually, because you're thinking lowly about yourself, right? So keep your expectations in moderate way. Then you will feel less fear. And I must say, every one of us feel this fear. It's a common mental condition, right? And also, every one of us fail. It's also a common worldly condition. Do you think the Buddha didn't fail? Before he becomes the Buddha, when he was the Bodhisattva, he failed many times, right? He spent 6 years of time trying to find this Buddhahood, right? Trying to find this enlightenment. But finally he failed, right? He tried many things like self-mortification, these harsh meditations, but finally he realized that I cannot achieve this enlightenment through these hardships. Then he thought, now I must change my plan. I must change the way I am doing. That is what Buddha thought. But he did not give up his dream. He did not give up his goal. Instead, he changed the plan. So you can change your plan. You can change the way you are doing, right? But do not give up your dream. You will fail, you will fall, you will have to suffer in this life. That is the life, but do not give up the dream. Right? If you're a student, if you're having the life challenges, never give up. Change the way you're doing. It's okay, you can do that, right? So that is what you have to do. And the final thing that I have to say is, do not be afraid to fail. Because failure teaches us many things, many lessons. It teaches us what not to do. It teaches us how to be patient. It teaches us you're a human and you will fail. It teaches us how to be humble. There are many lessons that we can learn from failure. But when you win all the time, if there is the victory all the time in your life, you will never learn many things. Instead, it will feed your ego. So, keep it in your mind. Do not be afraid to fail, but be afraid to not to try. So keep these things in your mind and practice and be happy in your life. Namo Buddhaya.